look fewer than 12 weeks into Hitler's chancellorship to see what the status of the Jews would be in the new Nazi state. On April 1st, 1933, the party organized a boycott of all Jewish shops, which lasted one day. The Nazis had made the Jews scapegoats for the loss of World War I, and much else besides. In those early months of the Nazi reign, German Jews also fell victim to the stormtroopers' arbitrary and violent attacks.
And in 1933, the stormtroopers came and took my father away, and together with many other Jews in Nuremberg, they were taken to a sports stadium with a lot of grass, and they were made to cut the grass with their teeth by sort of eating the grass. But I found it out afterwards. My father never talked about it. Is to humiliate them and to show them that they were the lowest of the low. It's simply to make a gesture.
But if you didn't fit the Nazi image of the perfect German, then life was very different. Here in Munich, the same city where the Night of the Amazons was held, the Nazis demolished one of the biggest synagogues in Germany. They said they wanted the space for a car park. The Jews were systematically excluded from German life. The 1935 Nuremberg laws outlawed marriage between Jews and other Germans and declared that Jews were not German citizens. Other discrimination followed.
Wasn't it a problem for you that you were working in a system that allowed Jews to be pushed out of their position, to lose their wealth, their property? Surely this was a great injustice. How did you feel about that?
Also die allgemeine Meinung war, dass die Juden in Deutschland es übertrieben haben. Von 4.800 Rechtsanwälten in Berlin waren 3.600 Juden. Außer Furtwängler gab es keinen Theaterleiter, der kein Jude war. Und das ist dann eines Tages zu viel, sodass allgemein, das allgemeine Gefühl war, dass die Juden zurückgedrängt wurden, wurde nicht bekämpft.
Nazi anti-Semitic propaganda hugely exaggerated the number of Jews who were in professions like the law or the theatre. And the Nazis never gave the true reason why German Jews were concentrated in particular walks of life, that the Jews had been banned from other careers for hundreds of years. Thousands of Jews emigrated from Germany during the 1930s, realizing that there could never be a fair or safe place for them in German society for as long as the Nazis ruled.
Than the normal German and Austrian, and they were so excellent in literature and in theaters and in cinema and in science. More than 50% of the medicine doctors in Vienna were Jews, more than 70% of the lawyers. And of course, all that made for a strong and hardline anti-Semitism.
Of Germany's 500,000 Jews, only a minority were ultra-Orthodox. The Bodenheimer family, in a Berlin suburb, saw themselves first and foremost as Germans.
Der Bekannte, ich der Frage, schrieb im Kaffee einen Schlager, ach, es fiel ihm schwer. Als ihn sich abgerungen, hat ihm bald die Welt gesungen. Er wurde populär. Die Geister, die rief, die wird nicht mehr los. Denn jeden Abend singt jetzt seine alte Blues. Wenn ich
This is my brother Edgar and I. We were very, very close. These are my parents. in the garden. My father was a banker. I put the cigar in his mouth. I enjoyed it when he smoked. I was in my family the only person who looked Jewish, and Germans were very aware of how people looked and were very attuned to discovering a Jew. I remember as a little girl walking somewheres and some stranger would pass me and say, "Dirty Jew."
In April 1933, Hitler and Goebbels ordered a nationwide boycott of Jewish businesses. Most Germans stood by and watched as shops were picketed and defaced.
It was a frightening experience, it was a shock, and my mother was the one who said, "We must leave Germany." And almost to the day a year later, we were all out, had officially emigrated. I still admire her for her guts and her gut feelings, and I think we were very lucky, very lucky.
The Nazis created a historical myth to support their ideas. Purebred Germans were naturally superior because they were the descendants of noble medieval knights from a less degenerate age of verdant forests and Aryan blood. Germans were told their ancestors had been a uniquely advanced, cultured race. Cooperative archaeologists dug up bogus relics as evidence.
Deutsche Mutter Erde tut sich auf, um Kunde zu geben von der hohen Kulturstufe unserer frühesten Vorfahren.
The successors of the Teutonic Knights were the men of the elite SS.
I personally was in the SS. Racial, Nordic, selected people, and we shall be the future aristocratic spine bone of the German nation. Well, I thought, wonderful, no? And I felt myself very much flattered by being chosen for this, and then the uniform was very beautiful, black, no? Of course we liked the uniform and the boots and all that, no?
The SS had begun as Hitler's bodyguard. Now it became the spearhead in the drive to confirm the German people as the master race.
So sind wir angetreten und marschieren nach unabänderlichen Gesetzen. Wir gehen den Weg in eine ferne Zukunft und wünschen und glauben, wir möchten nicht nur sein die Enkel, die es besser ausfochten, sondern darüber hinaus die Ahnen spätester für das ewige Leben des deutschen und germanischen Volkes notwendiger Geschlechter.
SS leader Himmler asked Germans to follow Nazi genetic theories and improve the racial stock. The state gave loans to encourage healthy couples to have more children. For unusually productive mothers, there were medals. The ideal baby was racially pure and genetically fit, so partners had to be chosen with great care.
I was affected by this when I married. I had to prove myself as an SS officer, all my ancestors down to 1750. And my wife, she had to fill out about 22 questions, whether she likes too much dresses or perfumes. We thought that we can form a new ideal race. And that we thought perfect. And I chose my wife according to this line.
The new German was self-disciplined and healthy. It was a model many aspired to. As a young woman, Louisa Essig worked as an education officer for the Nazi farming ministry. She had to put the theory into practice among the farmers. She developed a training program that linked fitness and rural crafts with racial purity and the sanctity of the soil. The scheme was called Faith and Beauty, and thousands of young people learnt it from Louisa.
I developed farming study groups, and we had sports and so on. I took my suggestions to Berlin, and they were all accepted. And so the Faith and Beauty scheme for girls was launched. And in the countryside, we set up these two groups studying the farming profession and rural lifestyles.
A whole generation was taught to live the ideal German life the Nazis prescribed. Local party officials regularly reminded them what it was all for.
For Führer and fatherland, that's what it was usually about. We're fighting for Führer and fatherland, something like that.
The generation that grew up together in the small village of Repna in Lower Saxony watch a film made there in the 30s at a May Day festival.
The 1st of May, I was 6. The flag's being hoisted. That's the pastor's house with the stork's nest on top.
Every German could be part of this shared national folk experience. The belief which held up the purebred Aryan as the ideal German condemned Jewish people as an inferior race. Jewish children were ejected from the state education system, forcing Jewish communities to set up their own schools. Between 1933 and 1935, a succession of decrees banned Jews from the law, medicine and the civil service, pushing them out of the Aryan workplace and the Aryan home.
Dem deutschen Volk und Reich zu dienen. Eheschließungen zwischen Juden und Staatsangehörigen deutschen oder artverwandten Blutes sind verboten.
Ich bin zur Kunstschule gegangen in Berlin.
I went to art school in Berlin, and we knew we weren't allowed to go out with German girls.
Mit deutschen Mädchen nicht ausgehen konnten. Ich hatte kein deutsches Mädchen
I didn't have any German girlfriends because of the Nuremberg laws.
Durch die Nürnberger Gesetze.
In Aryan classrooms, children were taught to be on their guard against Jews. To do that, they first had to be able to spot them. Children's books, like The Poisonous Mushroom, were there to help. Jews were like the death cap. They had to be picked out from the other harmless mushrooms in the forest of life. Books taught how to recognize the Jew, the molester of children, the ravisher of Aryan women, the swindler of honest Germans. The message was to get rid of them. The Jews are not wanted. And this sign was not part of a fairy tale. It was put up across Germany in the late 30s. Jews are not wanted here.
It was a process which developed slowly but surely and took over whole sections of the population who had never thought about it before.
Die haben dann zum Teil auch einfach nachgequatscht.
A lot of them just talked about it, not necessarily believing
Aber
it.
es ist ihnen
But
oktroyiert
gradually
worden.
their brains
Und dann
became fogged,
allmählich
and they started to say the Jews are our misfortune.
Der berühmte Satz, die Juden sind unser Unglück.